Ready to break the internet, friend?
How are we going to break the internet? You said you wanted this to be impactful. What would that look like to you?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of people are interested in my journey. I think a lot of people are interested in how it feels to go through what I'm going through.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people who want me to martyr myself. A lot of people are living vicariously through me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who say, yeah, Andrew, keep going. But they don't really care. They just enjoy the drama of it all. And I think I've already broken the internet, but you're a very interesting man to talk to. And with your insights, I think together, we're going to have quite a large audience.
Yeah, I mean, that's a question that I have for you. Why did you want to talk to me? Because I'm a psychotherapist. You have your skepticism about psychotherapy, and yet here I am.
That's true. We had a conversation before, and I've been told by many people it was my most interesting podcast ever. So I think it obviously varies from the norm in terms of the normal things I'm asked about. You have some unique insights. And I thought it'd be an interesting conversation. A lot of people are asking me especially about my mental state and those kind of things post-jail. So I thought, well, my most interesting podcast ever. People seem to be very interested in that side of me. So perhaps it can be a good conversation.
Does it make you nervous that there may be things that you don't know about yourself that I'm going to try to reveal to you?
I know everything about myself, my friend.
You know everything about yourself.
I believe that I have an intimate grasp of all the things about myself which matter, which allow me to compete.
Right.
So there may be things I don't know, but I'm not sure if I particularly need them. So I'm not that interested.
Right. What's useful is more important than what's true.
Absolutely.
Right, and you've developed a framework of thinking about yourself and thinking about reality that's been incredibly effective for you.
Completely. Right. What's useful is more, you nailed it, what's useful is more important than what's true. This is an old argument of mine, but I think we discussed it in the last podcast, and I'll say it again. When I say I don't believe in depression, nobody can convince me to believe in depression. That's not a matter of discussing whether depression is real or not. That's a matter of me accepting that my mental model for going through life is more effective if I don't believe I can become a depressed person. Yeah. I don't believe in depression, so I can't be depressed, so that allows me to be more effective. It's not a matter of sitting there going, well, maybe it's true, maybe it isn't. I don't believe in it, so I can't catch it.
You shape your own reality through the conviction of your thoughts, your beliefs, and the words that you use.
Why else would you adopt any kind of mindset unless it's designed specifically to make you competitive and make you win? You install the software in your mind, right? So if I'm going to install software in my mind. Did you install it? Well, I've tried very hard to curate it.
Right, because wasn't it installed by your upbringing? Wasn't it installed by your mother and your father in some way?
Good question.
Before you were conscious, while you were just a developing child, like something got programmed into your psyche that has to have an impact on you. And those things can't necessarily be known because you were at such a young age.
Absolutely. We're all programmed to some degree. I agree with you on this so far. I don't think anybody can escape programming, whether it's society, whether it's a television show, whether it's the people around you, peer pressure, whether it's a religion. We're all programmed to some degree. That's absolutely not really true. What I have done, and what I think most people do not do, is heavily analyze why I hold the beliefs I hold, why they help me. If I don't hold the belief personally, or if I didn't learn it from personal experience, I know where it came from, who tried to teach me that, whether their intentions for me were good or bad. And I've tried very hard to have my mindset rigidly analyzed and make sure that it's put together in a way which benefits me completely and absolutely. And I do not believe in things that take away power from me. Right. I refuse to do that. I would rather say that they are not real. And people will sit here and argue to the end of time that they are real, but they're not real in my world. And I live inside of my mind. So even if you throw me in a Romanian dungeon, the idea that I become a depressed person is not a framework that my mind works within, so I can't become depressed. I can feel a little bit sad, sure, I can feel depressed, but I can't be depressed. They're very different things. So that's just a mindset I've installed, and it's allowed me to be competitive. And I believe, personally, my personal beliefs are that life as a man is hyper-competitive, and whatever software you have in your mind should be designed to make you as competitive as possible, and you shouldn't be believing in absolutely anything else. So I've tried very hard to make sure all of my worldviews and all of my experiences and everything is curated and aimed in a direction which is going to allow me to be a fearsome competitor in all realms of human endeavor.
You're a man who's totally in control of your world, of your life, and that's almost like an imperative for you. Correct. And that gives you power. And all of a sudden you're thrust into a situation where you're essentially helpless.
Well, you just nailed it. You completely nailed it, because I was exactly about to say it's the uncertainty that I struggle with the most, because in my life I'm in charge of everything. I know exactly how everything works, and I'm the boss, and I get to control absolutely everything. And this is the first time in a long time I'm in a scenario where I have no power whatsoever, no influence, basically. I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody else knows what's going to happen. And also in my world, I'm the hero, right? I'm the head of the clan. Not just my family, but of a lot of people. A lot of people rely on me. Lots of women rely on me. Children rely on me, etc. So everyone comes to me every time there's a problem. So they continue to do that while I'm in a jail cell, expecting me to have some kind of answer.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I don't have an answer this time. Every other time I had an answer, but this time is a bit unique.
How did that feel? You don't have the answers. You can't help.
Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating. It's very frustrating, and it's the uncertainty that would bother me. I don't think I felt sad very often, but I certainly felt extremely frustrated. I would sit there and think, there has to be a way out of this room. Not breakout, but like there must just be some words I can say, someone I can talk to. There must be a way. It's only a door. Like I can't just be stuck in this room. And it was hyper frustrating. Yeah, and the uncertainty of it is also scary because in my situation, every 30 days they decide if they hold you longer or not. And I was encountering people who had been in there for years in my scenario. So.
Well, the uncertainty is a form of torture, really.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's torture.
It is torture. And it's designed to make you break. You don't know how long you're going to be there for. Nobody knows. You hear horror stories. You see other people getting out who've done worse things than you after a week because they've signed a piece of paper or admitted to something or whatever they've done a deal. And you're sitting there and yeah, it's hyper frustrating. And I think you have two choices as a man often when bad things happen. I feel like you can maybe get depressed and sad about it, but the other outlet's usually anger or a form of anger. I felt like anger was more, in many cases, anger is more effective, I guess. It's more useful.
You were angry in there?
I wouldn't say I was angry, but if I started to feel negative, I could turn it into frustration or anger, which I could at least alleviate with 2,000 push-ups. Right. It's better than feeling sorry for myself. Right. I feel like if I had to choose one of the two outlets, deciding to use controlled anger was more beneficial than sitting around feeling sorry for myself. I don't ever believe in moping or feeling sad. So when I was at my worst, perhaps I was a little bit angry. But then again, I also think I do that in my normal life. If I'm honest, I don't think anger is a necessarily bad thing. I think that misdirected anger is a bad thing. I think if you get very angry about scenarios and you put it in the correct direction, you get unlimited motivation and you get a lot done. The water behind the dam, it can be destructive, but if it's pushing through the turbine, it powers the town, right? So if I wake up and I go, I want more money, if I can get pissed off enough about it, I can do 36-hour work days, right? So there's nothing wrong with being angry in my world as long as you are putting it in the correct direction. It's uncontrolled anger, I think, is a problem.
Right.
All these things that people are trying very hard to get rid of from their brains, I don't see why they need to leave. I will argue the point that if I feel anxious and pressured and stressed and fearful, I will get more done than if I was happy. I think if I was happy, I'd just be hedonistic and just wasting my time. I think that you get a whole bunch done with these negative connotations and negative emotions, and I think that life is suffering and pain, and you're here to go through it, and the sooner you get used to the taste, the more successful you're going to be. I have no interest in trying to change the flavor, my friend. The flavor of life is pain, and I will eat all of it. And it doesn't matter if they put me back in jail or not. I'm not sitting there going, how can I be happy in jail? I will sit in jail and say, yes, this sucks. It's supposed to suck. Yes, I'm not enjoying this. Yes, I'm anxious and paranoid. And yes, that guy might stab me. And yes, I can't sleep. And I miss my family. And this is what's supposed to happen to me. And this is how I become the best man I can possibly be. And I'm going to succeed regardless.
You're very convincing. You're so good though, right? It's almost like I feel like you can rationalize anything, right? It's almost like a trick.
Magic trick?
Well, you're really good at talking, you're really smart, and it's almost like any question you can turn and make it work for you, which is great. It's a skill, but there's also a place where there's the potential for self-delusion.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not even going to sit here and say that I'm not delusional to a degree. I'm not saying that self-delusion doesn't exist. We all are, right? Let me give you a very simple example. Let me try and use an analogy. I think the only thing better than having everything you want is not wanting anything, right? So I have every car on this planet. I have 40 supercars. Most people want a supercar. I have 40. But there's that unique 0.1% of people who genuinely don't want one. And I think that's more freeing than having everything you want. Right? So the true mindset is not wanting anything. Most people, the best they can do is having everything they want. And I feel like you can kind of do this with the emotions as well. I guess my general consensus is that I don't think I can change or affect the world to the point where pain and suffering and bad things are not going to happen. So isn't it best if I just enjoy all of that? Doesn't that make me as powerful as possible if I say, oh yeah, okay, this is gonna suck, good. I mean, I do it when I fight. Yesterday I was fighting, right? We were doing 12 rounds and all of us were destroyed. And the more he hurt me, the more I wanted to hurt him back. The more he hurt me, the better it felt. The more powerful I felt, the more he hit me. Because then it's my turn, right? So if I can't stop him from punching me, and I'll do my best, but if I can't, then surely you should learn to enjoy it, right? And I don't think you can stop life from hitting you. And I don't think you can stop life from giving you unexpected surprises. And I don't think you can stop yourself from feeling sometimes sad or anxious or upset. So I think the best mindset you could adopt is finding that engaging and exciting. I'm not going to lie to you. Although I am facing very serious charges, and although they are trying to destroy my life, and although I cannot sleep the same, and although they're out to get me, and although I've suffered, part of me is excited. Part of me is like, okay.
Why?
Because it's a war.
You like war?
I think all men do.
I do.
Yeah, of course. All men do. Yeah. So it's a battle.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. So I'm not saying I'm glad it happened, because I'm certainly not. And I'm not saying I'm going to win. But I'm saying that I've trained myself to the point where if I were walking down the street and 10 men were to pull knives on me, I'd be intimidated, but 20% of me would go, this is going to be one to remember.
Do you have a belief that you could take 10 men with knives?
I have a belief that, yeah, I do. Because
that's
delusional.
That's delusional.
Yeah, but it gives me a best chance of possibly winning.
Well, no, running away would give you the best chance of possibly winning,
and
then coming back and being safe, and then serving out your mission.
Of course, I would run away in that scenario. But if I had to engage them, if I had to engage them,
right.
If I had to fight them, I believe I'd be the most capable if I believed I could win.
Of course.
I want to make something clear. I've been brutally aware of the fact that all of this might blow up in my face for a very long time. I've not been ignorant to that, and I think that's why jail didn't cause me pain, because I wasn't in jail like, how did this happen? I was in jail thinking, they got me. I knew it. They've been after me for a long time. I knew they were coming. And I don't know if that's a coping mechanism, but I was saying on every single podcast before I went to jail, they're going to try and put me in jail. I knew it.
Right. You said that there's a light and a dark. Is there darkness in you? I mean, there must be.
There's darkness inside of everybody.
Right. And do you know that part of you? Are you in relationship with it? Do you think about it?
That's a good question. First, I have to identify what would the darkness in me be.
Well, let me present something to you, because I stood up for you after you got canceled off social media, and I have a lot of female clients, and they had questions about that. I mean, they know me and they trust me, so they're curious. Yeah. But one of them said, "Well, you know, Andrew he's out there saying that he's helping all these young men, but in the beginning, he made his millions in some level exploiting these very men." Okay. That's the frame that they were thinking about it. And is there validity in that, in what they're saying? Because I didn't know how to answer that question.
I don't think I exploited the men. I think I exploited, maybe I did exploit the men, but let me change my answer. I don't think me not exploiting them would have prevented them being exploited. I think these men were out to be exploited regardless, whether I did it or not. So,
but you can see how that sounds cynical to somebody, where you say, well, they're going to be exploited anyway, so I'm going to make money off them. And then once I make money off them and I get this platform, then I'm going to champion them. Completely.
I mean, I guess that's probably one of the most logical arguments against me I've heard. Then we have to argue whether I was really exploiting them, which is another argument, right? Absolutely. Because a lot of these men, the only reason they didn't kill themselves is because they had an online girlfriend. Sure. So I actually think that webcamming and girls as a whole is closer to therapy than it is porn. Truly, these men are completely miserable, and the only joy they have is logging into that website. So I don't think I did exploit them. The reason I said the fact they were going to be exploited anyway, it's very similar to having an alcohol store. Let's say there's 3 alcohol stores in a row and all of your customers are alcoholics. Well, if you close your alcohol store, what happens? They just buy at the next store next door. Right. They're still going to be an alcoholic. You're not saving anyone's life. Right. But I don't think I necessarily exploited. I didn't see myself as exploiting them or exploiting the girls. I don't think that. I think it was a business opportunity, and I approached it the way I approach everything, which is extremely professionally, and I got good at it, and we had a very successful company. Everybody was happy, including the men at home and including the women who all became millionaires. I've turned more women into millionaires than I've turned men into millionaires. So,
but maybe that's the reason they're coming after you, because they feel in that a contradiction, and they're not buying your story, right? They don't believe it. They're like, oh, this is an act. He's not genuine. He's actually out for himself, right? Well, And so that's the place that they want to get you, because there's definitely an energy out there. They want to get you.
Oh no, they're out to get me.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the reason why, though.
Well, depends who we're talking about.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the Matrix. I understand why and you've talked about that a lot in podcasts. We could talk about that, because you are speaking a lot of truth, and you're confronting all the lies in the culture, and you're speaking against the most powerful forces in the world. But individual women, let's say, they're going to look at what you're doing, a lot of them, and a lot of them, they're completely insane. And they're looking at these little clips, and they're distorted in their own feminism, and maybe unconsciously they can't reconcile to the fact that they would actually want a man like you. I think that's a lot of what's going on. It's like projection.
I'd agree with that.
Nevertheless, there is an energy that's like they want to get you. They want you to be punished in some way. Yeah. And so, like, how do you, like, what do you do with that? How do you deal with that? Like, how do you answer to that? Like, if that woman was sitting here, what do you say to her?
Yeah, I would say that her argument, to a degree, is a logic fail. Let's take it away from webcamming.
It's a female logic.
Yeah. Don't be a misogynist.
There's your blind spot right there.
Don't be a misogynist. But that's like saying because
it's not misogyny.
No, of course. But that's like saying because you've ever eaten a steak, you don't care about animals. Right. Effectively, right. What she's saying is because he had a business in which some man may have felt exploited at some point, he doesn't care about humanity, which is a logic fail.
Yeah, I understand.
So that's not valid. What I have found in my experience often is that many women who seem to dislike me, after they meet me, don't dislike me anymore. Mm-hmm. I think the energy which they find repulsive over a screen or affects them emotionally over a screen, they end up liking in person. I think hate and love are actually very close to each other. And I've had women who scream how much they hate me at the screen, and then they meet me and they're literally in love with me.
Well, you're a nice guy.
Of course. So I've yet to meet a female in person who dislikes me. And I would love to talk to these women. I think that'd be the best conversation ever. I think it'd be the best podcast on earth.
Yeah. What is your responsibility to God?
I think God wants me to be the best possible version of myself. Uh-huh. I think that God dislikes people who are lazy. I said this to somebody once and he got very offended. I said, God doesn't like lazy people. God has created you and he wants to see the absolute best you can be. I think that if you don't take care of yourself, God has no interest in taking care of you. If you have a Ferrari on the drive and you don't take care of it, who's going to take care of it? Nobody. I think that taking care of yourself and being the best possible version of yourself you can be is how you please God. I think that's one of the best ways to praise him, is to wake up every day and say, I need to be the strongest, smartest, fastest, most fearsome, most stoic, most capable man I can possibly be. This is how I please God. Yeah. So I think your duty to God is also these things. And that's another massive source of strength that I get. When I'm alone in a jail cell, I understand that God is still watching. And God would be unhappy if I couldn't handle it. Mm-hmm. I don't think, maybe we can talk about God, or we can also talk just about basic cosmic balance. I don't believe you can become the most famous man on the planet calling yourself the top G without the universe testing if you're really about it. I don't think you're going to get to a point where the universe, whatever you want to call it, is going to say, is he really the top G? Yeah. And you're going to have to prove it. If you walk through life and say, I'm made of iron, I'm Mr. Tough Guy, sooner or later someone's going to check you and find out if you are or not. Right. So when I was doing this for a very long time, I wasn't ignorant to the fact that something's going to come along and see if I am who I am. So when I'm sitting in a jail cell by myself with cockroaches all over the floor, I'm like, okay, this is my chance to show I'm not full of shit. Right. Was I full of shit? No, I wasn't. Am I going to allow everything I've ever said and my last name and my duty to God and everything to go down the pan, or am I going to just man up and fucking win? Right. So I saw it, I guess, to a degree as an opportunity, but there was a massive burden of responsibility on me on how I had to perform. I didn't have time to be depressed or sad. This is what I'm saying to you earlier. I didn't have time. I had things to do. Top G's kids can't eat. Top G's women can't pay the bills. Top G's business is over. No, I had to fix all of it from jail and fix myself and get out. I was very busy inside of my brain staring at a wall. So I didn't have time for this. And this is another thing I try and explain to people and I don't understand about, and I talk about men specifically because I understand how to be successful as a man. When men say to me they're depressed, with unlimited options, with the capability to become anything you desire, with God giving you a full and able body and mind, how do you have time to be depressed. You have so much you could do. There's so much that you need to do to be your best self. And you're competing against men like me.
Yeah.
And you're finding hours a day to be sad. No wonder you're going to perpetually lose forever.
Right.
That's suicide. So how do you find time to do this? It's brutally ineffective. You have a brain, you have a mind, you have a mental model. You can't think of everything, you can't do everything. You can only have certain frameworks instilled inside of your mind. As a man, you should be hyper-competitive. You should try and be the best version of yourself you can be. You're competing against every other man on earth for the girl you want, the car you want, the house you want, the watch you wear. It's all competition. You should be as competitive as you possibly can. Anything that's inside of your mind which doesn't allow you to be competitive should be erased. This is why I can't name a weakness. I can't name a weakness I have. I've compensated so heavily for any weakness that may exist, I don't even see them anymore.
Is your belief in God tied into this concept that we talked about, that what's useful is more important than what's true, or better than what's true? So we don't, do we know that God exists? I mean, we don't know.
Correct.
But it's useful to believe in God.
That's a very good question. I think that believing in God certainly makes you more powerful, which is proof for God. If God makes you more powerful, then God is real. So maybe that's very simplistic, but if I believe in God and I'm a more powerful version of myself because I believe in him, then he must exist.
Yes.
God has made me more powerful.
Well, it's the act of believing him that makes him exist, which is another way of saying what you just said.
Correct, yeah. So this is why I believe faith is such an important thing. But I think everybody has a God anyway.
Yes.
There's no such thing as atheists. If you look at the people who say, oh, I don't believe in God, they worship a flag and a vaccine.
Yeah.
So everyone believes in something.
Yeah.
So you have to decide what your religion is. And I, once again, refuse to believe in anything that takes away power from me. I believe in things that make me more powerful. And I believe that believing in God gives you a new degree of strength. And I also think everybody to some degree believes in God. I don't care what anybody says. If you put anyone in that submarine just before it imploded, everyone would pray.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
So it's ignorant to even say you don't believe in God at this point.
It's interesting that you chose Islam, and I heard you talk a little bit about how you see God in Islam as kind of, I don't know how harsh is, but like firm and directional and clear, and this is right and this is wrong, which sounds a lot like your dad.
Well, it sounds a lot like life.
Yeah, like life.
There's right and wrong in life. All this complete subjectiveness, this mush they're trying to create, is done on purpose to confuse us.
Yeah.
I like the idea of right and wrong. I like the idea of not having a choice. If you're hungry and you walk in to buy a sandwich and there's 100 sandwiches, it takes 10 minutes. If there's one sandwich, isn't life easier sometimes?
Yeah.
So all this subjectiveness and all this choice and all this garbage, sometimes when I'm like, okay, I want to be a good person, I want a framework to adhere to that makes me a good person. Well, this is very clear. Yes, no, easy.
Do you have like embodied experiences of God? Like, do you relate to God in that way? I don't want to say supernatural, but like, do you feel God?
I absolutely feel him, and there's certain times where I may feel particularly energetic.
When do you feel God?
So usually when I'm feeling powerful. There's been times I was in jail and I just got up and I just felt like, you know what, like just shadow boxed a bit. I don't know. It's like you just felt it. Like I'll be okay. I will win. I don't feel God when I'm sad or something like that. I think that the whole idea of spirituality, and I believe God himself, he wants the best for you. And it's interesting, how we're tying religion to my worldviews, because my worldviews were the same before religion. I guess before it was the cosmos, or just the way the universe works, or light, dark, yin, yang, etc. I still say these things, but now I attribute a lot more of it to spirituality, a lot more of it to God. And I chose Islam because it's firm, and I believe that I'm a person with firm principles, so I'm obviously going to liken myself, or I'm going to feel an affinity to a religion that has firm principles, because that's who I am as a person. I'm a person who's principled, yes, no, and I have no problem with people sitting with me and saying, what you're saying is bigoted, or what you're saying is wrong, or what you're saying is insensitive. I think Islam also has a similar issue.
Yeah, I think you also chose the winning team.
Oh, it's completely the winning team. It's the winning team because it's the winning team, and I didn't choose it because it's the winning team. It's just the winning team because it has principles.
Yeah, I agree.
And unfortunately, when you have no principles, if you don't believe in it, if you have no hard line, if you'll accept anything, then you don't believe in anything.
Yeah.
As soon as you'll accept anything, then you have no hardcore beliefs. If you have any set of principles or you have any things you believe in, there's going to end up being a barrier, and the people who fall outside of those barriers are going to be offended by it. That's the reality of it. If you have a religion or a belief system that doesn't offend anybody, then it's not a religious or belief system. That's my view. So yeah, I chose the winning team because I think more and more people are starting to understand how important God is in society. This is the first time in human history we're testing society without God. And what do we have? We have evil. Yeah. We have Satanism. We have degeneracy. And I think that most people are starting to understand that God is really needed. When I was young, I used to make fun of Bible bashers. Let's make fun of them. Yeah. And now I'm like, we need more. Yeah. Where are they? We need more Bible bashers. So, yeah, and I guess I certainly feel more powerful since I've reverted, but I always felt powerful anyway. But I guess now, instead of just believing it's the cosmic nature of the universe, or let me change that. I always felt a strong affinity to my last name and my ancestors. So I always had to a degree, a spiritual aspect to where I got my strength. I always felt like, well, my dad is watching me, or my ancestors tried very hard for me to be born, so I can't disappoint them. So I've always had this spiritualistic side. Like, imagine the disappointment my ancestors would feel if they fought saber-toothed tigers and survived World War II and went through all the garbage they went through just for my father to be born, and then he suffered like he suffered to raise me, for me to be raised and become the most famous man in the world and call myself top G and then cry when I went to jail. What am I? What kind of bitch? What am I going to go, wah? No, I go to jail with my head held high. And if they put me in jail for the next 20 years, I'll walk in there with my head held high. And if anybody sees me, I'm not going to be a broken man. I refuse to be a broken man. It's disrespectful to everybody who ever died or tried hard for me to be raised, for me to emerge from this difficulty as a broken person. That's absolutely and utterly selfish. When a man sits and says to me he's broken or he's depressed or he's sad, etc., that's selfishness. You have shit to do. Yeah. And you have people to be respectful to, including people who are no longer here. I don't have time. They can put me in solitary confinement for 20 years, and when I walk out of there, and the first podcast I do, I refuse to be called broken. I refuse. And that's because I feel like I had a duty to my ancestors, and now I feel like I have a duty to my ancestors and a duty to God. So I've always felt that.
And I assume you feel like you're fulfilling your duty, that your father would be proud of you?
I absolutely believe he'd be extremely proud of me. I think I'm doing the best I can possibly do. And there's something that people say, you tried your best. And that's true. But a lot of people overuse it. People say, oh, well, you didn't get it, but you tried your best. 99% of the time, they didn't try their best. People don't actually try very hard for things anymore. I am truly, genuinely trying my best. I don't waste a minute of my day. Before this podcast, as I set up cameras, I'm working. I don't waste a minute of my day. I do not miss a training session. I do not miss an email. I do not make mistakes. I'm on it. So I'm trying my absolute best. If I fail, for the first time in human history, then I failed. But at least I get the satisfaction in my heart of knowing I actually really tried my best. Most people don't get to get that satisfaction because they know deep down they could have tried a bit harder. Whereas if I end up in jail, I'll be like, Andrew, you did everything you could have done. So that gives you a level of peace. I did my best. My ancestors are proud of me. God is proud of me. I did my absolute best. I couldn't have possibly done better. And I got hit with a lucky punch, and that's life. And all I can do is just smile regardless.
Are your oration skills, is that an art, do you think?
I think that if you don't have the ability to make other people understand exactly what you think, that you're going to struggle.
But is it an art? Like when I watched you with PBD and you got in these zones, and you do it all the time. I mean, you're doing it right now. You get in these zones where it's just like you're just flowing. I mean, it's almost, you could say it's a God state, right? It's a flow state, and it must feel really good.
It does.
Yeah,
it feels good that you never run out of things to say, and it feels good that I already have 10 things I want to say lined up before I say the first ones.
And you know how to say them perfectly, and your voice is clear and resonant, and you're embodied in it.
It's a skill.
It's a skill. Well, but it's almost like an art, because I was watching you and I was thinking, this is like watching, Charlie Parker play the sax or Michael Jordan play basketball. I mean, you really, and people might say, oh, those are exaggerations, but I don't think so. I don't know that I've seen somebody who's able to do what you do.
But that's emotional. So we'll talk about how I'm actually quite a sensitive person.
Yeah.
I think the reason people believe what I say is because they can feel that I feel when I talk.
Yes.
And it's because I feel things.
Yes.
So I'm not a cold person at all. I'm just a person with a lot of emotion that I try and control and channel in the correct directions. But I think that, yes, it's a superpower to a degree.
Well, I think that's why people are, one of the reasons that people are so drawn to you, because you let whatever wants to come through.
And it's also why so many people hate me.
Yeah, of course.
Because there's no light without dark.
Yeah.
There's no joy without pain. You can't have a rainbow without little rain. That's how it goes. So, but jail itself was terrible. Like, we're talking about vulnerability. I can sit and explain all the things I struggle with in jail. It was absolutely terrible. And I think a lot of people who are watching this, I think they need to keep in mind, I wasn't in jail. I was in Romanian jail.
What's the difference?
Well, it's the poorest country in Europe, and it was built during communism, and it's basically designed to torture you.
Cockroaches, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like jail, like we imagine jail. I don't want to insult the Romanian justice system, and I don't want to insult any Romanians. I'm still within the confines of Romania, but I think most people at home understand what I'm talking about. I didn't have yard time. I didn't have any friends. I was in a room for 93 days. I did not leave that room unless I was being dragged to court in a language I didn't understand to be sent back to the room. Yeah, it was hard.
I did a 4-day vision quest, 4 days, 4 nights, no food or water, out in the mountains, like in a restricted area, like just like a prison cell. And that took me to my edge. So I can't even imagine 93 days.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. And you don't know how long you're going to be in there for.
Yeah.
And you have no control over anything. And you don't sleep very well. People think you just sleep it off, but you can't. The jail is very loud. There's a lot of distressed people in there, a lot of upset people. The energy is sad. Yeah, it's a bad place to be. But I knew that my only option was to deal with it. So I knew that not handling it wasn't an option. So if not handling it's not an option, the only option left is handling it. So you just have to find the best way to do it. Yeah. And I certainly allowed myself to feel a lot of emotions in there that I could have probably blocked out so that I could learn as many lessons as possible. And I've learned a lot of things. But I would say that, I mean, all in all, I understood as a man, you need to have a strong body so you're not attacked by anyone else, and a strong mind so you don't attack yourself. And I think jail in many ways is just pressurized life. And if you feel a little bit angry outside of jail, you'll be very angry in jail. It's pressurized life, and you can't distract yourself with anything. Mm-hmm. Most people, if you feel angry right now, you're like, oh, that pissed me off. And then you get on your phone and talk to someone else about something else. You distract yourself, but you're left alone with your thoughts, and you can't distract yourself. And God decided to put me in there to learn some things. And I think it just confirmed a bunch of things I already knew. And I think it was a chance for me to prove to him and to prove to myself I'm not full of shit. And I think that was...
Did you worry that you were full of shit?
Never. But it's good when you get tested. No, but this is actually the truth. Top G, right? It's a name, it's a nickname, blah, 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 Top G. The basic premise behind it and why I'm idolized by all these young men especially is I'm Top G, the number one G, the guy who can do anything. He's the guy. I never for a second when I was saying it didn't mean it. I never for a second when I was saying it thought I was full of shit. Mm-hmm. So God was like, okay, let's find out if he's full of shit. Right. And I was placed there and I was like, all right, this is a chance for me to prove to myself and prove to God and prove to the man watching to the prison guards and prove to everyone else, my ancestors, that I'm not full of shit. I had a sense of duty in there and I feel like I performed it exceptionally. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if they kept me in there for 3 months or 3 years or 30 years. I have to perform. That's who I am. And I will default to rationalizing, as you said, whatever it takes. I will come up with any rationale and I will say it in any way which is interesting and engaging and convincing enough to the outside world and to myself to install it in my brain that allows me to compete. That's just what I'm going to do because I don't want to lose anything ever. Yeah. And life, perhaps if we want to extrapolate this out, perhaps God's trying to break all of us. Maybe life is a big competition of who breaks last. I would actually argue, and I said this before, that the number one indicator of a man's success is his ability to deal with stress. I don't think it's IQ. I don't think it's physical capability. I don't think it's anything. If you take a man who can deal with a bunch of stress, he's going to be more successful than a man who can deal with less stress. How much stress you can put up with has a direct correlation to the kind of life you're going to live. Most people who want my life don't have my life because they couldn't handle my life. Yeah. That's why. They go, I want to be like Tate, I want fast cars and private jets and all these girls and all these kids and all blah, blah, blah. But they couldn't handle it. They couldn't deal with the pressure of it, which is why they'll never get there. Because even if they get anywhere near it, they'll have a mental breakdown. Right. So how big your life is and how successful you are in the physical realm is directly linked to how much stress you can deal with. And perhaps God's trying to break all of us. He's trying to find all of our limits. I think most people at home watching this probably have something going on in their mind right now or something going on in their lives that might break them. Yeah. To me, it would be nothing. To them, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So God's out here to break all of us, and I want to be the guy who breaks last. I love when God or life or the universe or whatever you want to call it gives me a chance to be brave. I love when he gives me an opportunity. Mm-hmm. Here's your chance to be brave, Andrew. Mm-hmm. Here is your chance to show you are that guy. Mm-hmm. Here's your chance to have another story where everyone else would have failed, you would have succeeded. Here is your chance to win. I love that because, you know, it's easy to fly around on private jets and stay in 5-star hotels with a bunch of beautiful women and drive Bugattis around. Cool. But where's the point where I get to actually prove I mean every word I say?
Right.
So God gave it to me. So yes, thank you. I agree. We agree. Thank you. And if God decides I have to go back, then the best mental model I can have is not the Romanian system of justice is unfair, it's corrupt, I got too big, the Matrix got me. No, the best mental model is God wants me to learn something here. And he's going to teach me that through suffering. He's going to make this difficult, and he's going to make me feel pain, and he's going to make this as hard as he decides it needs to be, mm-hmm. so that I can sit here and learn things. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go and sit with my cockroach friends, and I'm going to learn. I already learned things. I can tell you a bunch of things I learned. Even physical things. Uh-huh. I would hunt cockroaches in the dark. At night. I would stand there to kill them. I'd stand near the wall and I'd measure out a palm strike directly, exact measurement, so I didn't hurt my elbow or my hand, to the wall. And I'd just sit and just wait. And I'd hear them crawling. And in nearly pitch black, I could hear one in front of me. Bam! I got to the point where I could kill them. Ninja for real. I was like, I'm learning shit in here.
Right.
So that was fantastic. I learned.
Did you learn anything about yourself?
This is again
new information. That's all. I mean, you must have, right? I mean, you had a new experience, so there must be new information. I mean, you got tested, right? You're in jail, for fuck's sakes. Like, something must have popped into your mind. There must have been some revelation, some edge that you came to. It had to be, no?
I'm exactly who I thought I was. I am 0% full of shit. I'm exactly who I thought I was.
0% full of shit?
If you would have told me before I went,
like 0.1,
before I went to jail, before they put me in that dungeon, in the dark, mm-hmm. with the cockroaches, if you would have told me how I would react to that scenario, I would have said to you, I would have suffered and it wouldn't have been nice, but I would have refused to break, and I would have been the kind of person who sat there and endured and emerged more powerful than ever before. That's what I would have said.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done.
Yes, yes.
That's exactly what I've done. Yes. I don't see myself as a particularly present person. I do enjoy the presence of fighting. I do enjoy the presence of driving fast cars very fast.
Right.
I'm thinking of it, just so you understand my mental model, when I think of guys, and I do know some who are like, enjoying the moment. I very rarely enjoy the moment. Does that make sense? I'm sitting around and like, yeah, I look around and go, I'm having fun. That's just not how my brain works, ever.
That feels sad to me.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Perhaps it is. I don't know. I'm not going to say it is because I don't feel sad about it, but let's imagine it is sad. I have no fear of feeling sad. Mm. If someone were to say to me, Andrew, you're going to enjoy the moment less because you're constantly preoccupied with running an empire that most people wouldn't believe is as large as you say it is, even if you told them. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have unlimited offspring who adore you. And you're going to have unlimited female interaction from women who truly would die for you. And you're going to be one of the most respected men on the planet. And you're going to have street cred in every city from Baltimore to Berlin. And you're going to end up going through all these trials and tribulations, and they're going to talk about your name after you're dead for hundreds of years. But you're not going to be present in the moment. Would you take that? And I would say, yes, sir, I would. Mm-hmm. Give that to me. I can't be present because there's too much happening. How can I be present? How can I be present with hundreds of millions of dollars and DCOT trying to put me in jail? And how can I be present? I've got things happening in my brain. I can't be present. I've got things to deal with. I've got problems. So I've sacrificed presence.
But maybe you have a mental model that says I can't be all the way present and do all of those things, and maybe that model is incorrect.
Well, presence is if you're truly present, then you're not worried about anything outside of the moment you're in.
Not necessarily.
How does that work? I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, because the presence, right? You can let your consciousness go out, right? And you can be aware of everything, right?
I'm perspicacious is one of my favorite words. I am aware of what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm just not particularly interested in it. So I will sit at a table where everyone's having a conversation, and I'll sit on my laptop, and I'll chime up once every hour. I hear every word. I've analyzed every word. I know who's right. I know who's wrong. I know what I could have said. I know whose brain I could have changed, what mind I could have affected. I've already considered if it's worth doing, but I'd rather do my work, and I'll ignore it all until I pop up and say 3 words and control the entire conversation and go back to my laptop. I'm aware of everything. I'm just not particularly present because I feel like I've built a life which is so large that it's hard for me to be present in the moment. I'm present with my children for an hour or 2, and then it's like, okay, back to work. Right. So,
was your father present with you?
No. But I don't think. But then again.
I'm just saying, as a psychotherapist, when somebody said that, you said that he wasn't present with you. That must have been.
That didn't bother me at all.
It didn't bother you?
No. He had things to do. He's a full-grown man.
I mean, we could talk about the haircut tweet, but I didn't understand, your history that you were raised by a single mother. Your father wasn't around. Yeah. So you see him once a year?
About that, yeah. When we lived in America up to the age of 11, I saw him more often, once or twice a month maybe, and then...
When did they split?
I was 10 when they left. But I always understood he's very busy and has a lot to do. So I never...
Can you see how the boy might interpret that as my father doesn't care about me?
No.
You can see how, I understand you sitting here right now, but you understand like a little boy.
I think a little boy
might think, where's daddy? I want daddy. I'm here alone with mom.
And he might be right because some fathers may not care. But my father did care.
Right.
He was just very busy.
But it must have been confusing for you.
No.
Not for the little boy?
No.
Like bring.
I'm being honest. I'm being honest. It wasn't. Okay. I never
or you cut off, or those feelings were so painful, overwhelming, you cut off from them so quickly and then created this mindset to deal with.
I never for a second felt like he didn't care about me, ever. I'd never felt that. It didn't cross my mind.
Consciously.
Consciously.
But is it possible that unconsciously you might have a different belief? And that on some level, some of what you're doing in the world is motivated by that, like wanting to win the love of your father?
I think that is semi-true, but I'll tell you, I think that's
fine.
No. That's semi-true. That's semi-true because I believe I have a duty to my ancestors. I don't think it's coming from a place of I'm broken trying to fix myself. I think I have the last name Tate. It was bestowed upon me, and I have responsibilities to live up to the last name Tate.
Yeah.
I do believe I have a duty to my ancestors. So is that trying to win the love of my father? Perhaps. I never felt unloved by my father, ever. In fact, I would argue I had the best father on earth. I never felt like I was owed all of his time. It was very clear to me at a young age that he's extremely busy and extremely important, and that I can earn his time, or that I can't have as much of it as I want.
You have to earn his time?
Yeah, absolutely.
A son should have to earn his father's time?
Yeah, why not?
Because he's a boy.
True.
And so the father's love should be, at least for a boy, unconditional in some way.
Love and time are not necessarily the same thing. Okay. If I told my father, I want to play chess, I want you to teach me chess, he could find 2 hours. If I said to Dad, I want to play video games or let's watch TV together, he'd say, no, son, I have things to do.
Right.
So to a degree, I'd earn his time. Yeah. His time was valuable and it could not be wasted.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a duty to my ancestors. I don't feel like, and when I'm in jail, I feel like I can't disappoint him, and I feel like I do good for the world. I don't think this is me being some kind of broken secret. This is where we're going to disagree. You're going to think I'm some broken child inside or something. Okay. Well, the inner child, or I'm guessing, but.
Well, yes, inner child.
Okay, yeah. I don't think it's anything to do with that.
An inner child?
I think it's duty. I think I have duty and I have honor.
Yeah, I understand you have duty as a man, but that doesn't mean the inner child is not there. And I guess that's if the inner child has been disowned in some way, or his feelings have been relegated to the unconscious, like that's impacting you, that's affecting you, and knowing what those feelings are and how they impacted you, I think, would be important information for you.
But I was never sad. I can't say I had a hard childhood. I can't say I was sad. I can't say I wish he was different. Once again, let me psychoanalyze myself.
Yeah.
Once again, this might be rationale. I might be rationalizing.
Yes.
I might say, well, whatever happened made me the person I am today, and I love who I am today, so I'm glad it was the way it was. Perhaps. But once again, I think that puts me in the correct mental framework to be as capable as possible. I'm not going to sit here and say, I wish my dad did something else. What's the point? That's asinine.
Both things can be true, though. I wanted to see my father more. I wish he was there, and he wasn't. And now I'm here, and I'm going to make the best of it. And this is the result of that. And turned myself into this beast because of it. I mean, you made the most of the situation, but that doesn't discount the place where you may have wanted more from him. You may have wanted more love, more connection, just more time.
I think my father did the best he knew how to do, and second, he did exactly what was necessary to make me the person I am today.
Would it be okay for you to be angry with your father?
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
It's disrespectful.
Why not? Why?
Because he's my father.
But I'm not saying that you would have to confront him. I mean, obviously he's not here, but it's just like
that's selfish.
But if it's just a feeling, right? If it's just a feeling that wants to come,
it's ungratefulness.
Well, you're judging the feeling.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
For me to sit and say to the man who made me the man I am today,
Yeah.
who I, once again, never felt unloved by, who tried his very best to raise me, who sacrificed for me to exist, who gave me my last name, who bestowed upon me the honors and principles and morals I live by today,
Yeah.
for me to be angry at him because he was busy some days would be brutally ungrateful. No, I'm not allowed. No, I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed that feeling. It's ungrateful. I refuse to accept it. I refuse to feel it. I truly believe I had the best father on earth. I truly believe it. I don't believe, even now, if I have sons, I don't talk about what children I have publicly, if I have sons or when I have sons or my sons I have, whichever one it is, they will get my time, sure. They will get my dedication, absolutely. But I have expectations of them because of their last name. And they're going to have my time while we're working towards something fantastic. I'm not going to just sit around with my kids just for hours because they just deserve it. There's no participation trophies in the Tate household.
Right.
And time is a trophy, and it must be earned, like everything else in life. So I'm not going to sit and have sons and go, well, he's my son, so we're just going to all day do fucking nothing. No, we're going to all day do something important.
For sure.
Or I'm going to go do something important. And he can sit around and do nothing by himself.
For sure, but you can also imagine if you had sons and you saw them once a year, that would have an impact on them. Like, how would you feel about that if you had sons and you only saw them once a year?
I think I'd miss them, of course. They'd miss me.
I bet your dad missed you.
Oh, completely. Absolutely.
I bet he was sad there.
Oh, completely.
And I wonder if he had self-judgment about it. I wonder if he questioned himself.
Well, I think as a man...
Because would you do that?
Well, as a man, you have to make a choice. And I think it used to be more binary than it is today because of the nature of money and empire and how things work. But as a man, you have to make a choice. You either go to war and come back with stories, or you sit at home all day and be a second mother, and then you're not a man. You have to find the balance between the two, right?
Yeah.
My father was away a lot, but he wasn't away a lot because he was doing nothing, right? So if you have a soldier as a father, okay, he's not there, but he's doing something. He's coming back with a story. And I think that was typical in a lot of households for a very long time. Maybe it's changed a little bit in modern times, but typically the man went away, did whatever he had to do, and then came back with a story or a hunt or whatever.
For sure.
So that's how I saw my father living his life, and that's how I want to live my life. Mm-hmm. I will do the same thing. I don't think I would be the same man if I decided to say, okay, I have a son now, so I'm just going to stay at home. Mm-hmm. And I think that I need to be a kind of man my son wants to emulate, which means I have to be a hero, and I don't think you can be a hero sitting at home. So I think that I need to, he needs time, of course he does, but he also needs an example set, and that example must be set out there in the harsh, brutal realities of the real world. So, it's time. Now the argument is quantity of time versus quality of time. And I would argue that the quality of time I will give my sons is going to be much higher than
you would want to give them that.
Oh, completely.
You'd want to give your sons more quality time than you had with your father.
I'll give them the exact same amount as he gave me.
Will you?
But if I'm happy with
Would you not want to give them more?
I may want to.
You wanted more.
I didn't say I wanted more. Oh. That's smart. I didn't say I wanted more.
You didn't? Yeah,
no.
You must have.
No, I'm saying that...
Boy wants time with his daddy. It has to be true.
If I wanted it, I could have earned it anytime I wanted.
Well... are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
When we go, I don't know if we need to read the tweet, but it's like, your mom was pretty upset with him. So he was like, I'm not coming back here. It wasn't just about you, it was about your mother.
Oh, completely. And I think my father sacrificed his marriage for us boys. Mm-hmm. He sacrificed his marriage and his relationship with my mother to ensure that us boys were taught the way he believed we should be raised. Mm-hmm. My mom was very unhappy with certain things he did, which he insisted on doing anyway because he saw his legacy in us as more important than his marriage with my mother. But I'm not saying, look, if my son calls me and says, I'm really upset, I need to talk to you, I'm not going to say, no, you can't talk to me. I'm not psycho, right? I understand all of these things. I'm just saying, obviously we're talking about a very general scenario. The general scenario is, I'm a man, I'm away at war, I come home with a story, or if I'm spending time with my son, I want us to be building him as an individual. I believe that the mother does a lot of the day-to-day keeping the child alive, changing diapers, feeding them, etc. And the man is the one who instills a lot of the mindset, and the man is the one who grows them in very important ways. And I think to do that, I need to be a man of genuine capability. And I would argue that the 2 hours a month or 2 hours a week or whatever I spent with my father, him being the man he was worth more than the 200 hours a month that most men spend with their fathers. That's why I am the man I am. Yeah. So there'll be some fathers who sit and say, I could never do that to my son. Well, what can you do? You can go do fucking basically nothing with your life, pay your taxes, come home, be bitched at by your wife, be quiet about it, and be with your son all the time. Sure, you win in quantity of time, but who you are as a man and what the lessons you can really teach, you lose in quality of time. So I believe my father was such a fantastic figure that it's the quality of his time that made up for the quantity, and the only way to do that is to go out in the world and be fantastic. And we can actually extrapolate this out to other things. Let's look at relationships, for example. I see men who spend every day with their woman. That's fantastic. That's fine. That's how he elicits her love and her attention.
Are you rationalizing?
I'm completely. That's how that's how my brain works.
Yeah.
I see men who spend every day with their woman, which is fantastic. He wants to, she wants to, that's great. They're happy. She feels loved and she feels respected and she's glad she has all of his time. When you reach a certain quality of man, a certain level of man in terms of competence, a certain echelon, I don't have to spend all day with a woman. I can see a woman 1 hour a month and she'll be loyal to me because I'm me. Right. Because the quality of who I am and the quality of my time outweighs the quantity which can be offered by a lesser being. Yeah. So you can put this in nearly any dynamic. You can put it in a romantic relationship and also in a family dynamic. Once you reach a certain level of competence, once you're at the highest echelons of human achievement, your time is by extension more valuable and it extrapolates out. An hour with the president is worth more than 100 hours with a guy at McDonald's. Yeah. It's the same. Yeah. So I think my father raised me by not being there. He raised me by being out there and doing so many fantastic things and being such a fantastic individual that I understood I had a duty to him and a duty to my last name, and I can't be his son and not be fantastic. So I think he raised me in absence. That's what I think he did.
You're proud of yourself that you got there. You won that one.
When we're talking about how I've built my mental model and how I rationalize everything, one of the things I've done when I rationalize is I've changed the boundary of what I believe happy to be. So let's say happiness is this line on this table, right? Most people, this is the full spectrum of human emotion. This is absolute distraught because your parents just died. And this is extremely happy and giddish and you're laughing and jumping around like a child for whatever reason. Most people would probably put happy somewhere up here near the top. Yeah. Whereas I've just changed that bar and I've just said, unless I'm truly distraught, unless I'm actually at the point where I can barely speak, let's move happiness down to here. Unless I'm truly distraught and something really bad's happened to me, I've already passed the threshold. I'm just a different level of happy. Yeah. Now, the more I talk to you, the more I realize that a lot of what I've done are just simply semantic tricks. They're language tricks. I've changed language tricks. If I'm not absolutely distraught, I am some version of happy. Therefore, I am the happiest man on earth because I'm always some level of happy. It's semantic tricks, but if it works, I mean, it could be a cheap language trick, but if the cheap language trick works, then it's more than a cheap language trick. So I've also changed what I believe happy to be. I think that there's probably 5 or 6 times in your adult life you're going to be unhappy, and the rest of the time you're just a different level of happy. Maybe less happy, more happy, but you're all at some point of happy. If you can speak, you're happy enough, because when you're truly upset, you can't even talk. That's what I believe.
So here, you want me to tell you what I noticed?
Sure.
It is hard for you to stay present. Right? Like you come present and then you go to a thought, you go to an idea and you talk. And it's very convincing and it's very persuasive. And you're asserting your worldview, your frame of reality, which, but like sometimes like I lose you there. Like I'm like, where are you? Like there's words, but I can't feel you entirely.
I understand.
You know what I mean? And I want to like feel you more.
I understand.
You know what I mean?
I understand, but I don't think.
But just stay with that. Just stay in that. Like don't let your mind go. Just stay in the feeling. Yeah, don't go off with the thought.
So what am I feeling right now?
But just stay with me.
Okay.
Just stay with me and be present in the experience with no words and see what happens.
Sure.
Like something will change in how we relate to each other. something will soften. Like if you let yourself soften and just be with me,
Yeah.
right? Which is kind of a weird experience for two men to have,
Yep.
right? But it's actually what children long for with their father. It's actually what we long for is deeper levels of connection.
Yes.
You just let yourself be here with me and just see what happens.
But then what are we going to talk about?
We don't have to talk about anything. Doesn't it feel good to feel another man? Like just to feel the strength, like without the words, without that layer of thought and dialogue and discussion? Come back.
I'm thinking.
Come back.
But
Don't think.
But I have to.
You don't have to. Just be here. This is the place you get to when you're fighting. It feels good.
It's true, but
Doesn't it feel good?
Yes, but there's an action involved. Like I can feel everything about the person I'm fighting, whether it's good or bad, and I can feel if I've hurt them or not.
Feel me.
I don't get to punch you, my friend.
You don't.
It's been good fun, and I feel like I've learned some things, and I feel like we need to do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was fun. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you.